The Blue Deal is a program, a cooperation program between the Ministry of Water, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Dutch water authorities, and we aim to help 20 million people with access to safe and good and sufficient water before 2030.
Woord Daad is an international NGO with a Christian constituency in the Netherlands. We are active for about 50 years now in a number of countries, at the moment around 17, among which in Ethiopia. And we look to reach the unreached. So we would always look with partners to reach marginalized and vulnerable communities and people groups. And in our work we really try to work on systemic changes. Not just working on projects for a few years, but to actually really change structures and procedures and systems in the context locally. In the water agreement we bring partners together that all have an influence and a mandate on the issues that play around in the Awash basin. We are focused on the Awash basin. The Awash is a long river, about 1,200 kilometers in Ethiopia, very important economically. And there is a federal level and a regional level of governments in Ethiopia. And so far they are not working too much together. And we see opportunities to bring them more together so that in a joint way they can work on issues they both share.
The basin it's shared by 7 regional states in Ethiopia. So that is a base for the regions, for Oromia, Amhara, Afar, Addis Ababa city even, and the other regions as well. It's a source of water supply. It's a source for irrigation infrastructures. So that is the potential for Awash. The quality problem is one of the major problems in the basin. Second, it has also the water scarce area due to high population are living in the basin. So there is a driver of population living in the area that demands water for water supply as well as irrigation. And the other is, the area is, in the center part of the country. So there are more people are living on the area. So still the degradation is also another problem. But the first priority is pollution and water scarcity, flood problem, and watershed problem is, the problems in the area.
As we all know, Ethiopia is in a scarcity of water, scarcity everywhere, and we have to share the water fairly, and we have to work on how we are going to share the water fairly, and we have to work on to remove the pollutants or to protect the river from pollution. So this couldn't be alone, we can't work, the single region couldn't be responsible, or we can't work on this alone. So we need the cooperation from the provinces or the regions that are sharing the water and from the federal government.
We do like to work with the government in Ethiopia because they are on their job. They may have gaps here and there where we can add value in a collaboration. And if we reach a change through them in their systems or in their policies, for example, to make them more inclusive for people that need it most, then it is a real change for good. Because Woord Daad may only be there for some time, but the government is there to stay.
Well, and Dutch water authorities wants to contribute to the sustainable development goals, mainly on water. We want to have impact on that, and we want to do this with a transfer of our knowledge. So for us it's important that we find a similar partner abroad, that is a government, and that we can assist those governments by executing their tasks in a better way.
And we are also responsible and mandated to manage the basin authorities. So the Awash basin is one of the basins, so we are the one that administers and manages water resource in the basin. Why? Because the basin is shared by 7 regional states. To avoid conflict among the regions, we are making the water balance of the basin. Then we are managing the water resource and controlling the use of the resources among the regional states.
Basin approach is very important because you have upstream and downstream players who are depending on each other, and there needs to be some sort of a coordinating structure to put in place the catchment approach and to find the most optimal solutions for challenges that is felt in the basin. Because, for example, the problems are felt downstream while the solution is upstream, and somehow you need to bring these together. And the water agreement can be a supportive tool in that.
If you see some of the rivers in Awash Basin in our region, Amara region, in the north part of the region, is a soil erosion issue. So watershed management here in Amara region, and then flood management here in Afar region. So cooperatively, you can just change this flood issue, which is catastrophic every year, into opportunity.
A single region couldn't change the problem or couldn't be a solution to the problem. So cooperating together, coming together and bringing the solution to the problem will be a good solution. Even it has been really late to come together and to work on the solution for the problems.
So now we are in a good phase, even if there are a lot of problems, but still we acknowledge that cooperation is a must. It's not mandatory, it's a must.
For example, in Ethiopia, there is not much cooperation, and when you find cooperation, it's mostly incident-based, ad hoc based. And if you have a tool like a water agreement, then in advance you can establish all kinds of coordination mechanisms, procedures. You can make agreements what to do in case of a certain scenario.
Well, a water agreement needs a mindset of cooperation. And I think we both feel as organizations over the past years now that we work together with our partners. It is actually quite hard to make that mind shift, to really reach out for the other, to also be vulnerable in a way, or to be open, share information that you have, maybe share a bit or leave a bit of your mandate and hand it over to some others. Yeah, and that needs to grow, and it will grow slowly, but I think apart from technical issues or how you regulate it more structurally, I think the mindset is the biggest challenge in that.
There is a lot of initiations by the Netherlands government and even the parties like the Water Authority and others, Blue Deal and the like. So we are really happy with that. They are reputable partners for us because they are working with us for a long time. It's a long history. But for these cooperations, we are working with our Dutch partners. Then they support us, their experiences in the Netherlands. Here there are a lot of experiences in the Netherlands. So they try to show us, how unless with cooperations, it's difficult to manage the water resources. And that will lead also as conflict among the users. So that is a partnership. I will say now we are in a good position, but still it needs a hard work among the regional states together with the federal government.
So we started a particular intervention that we call water pricing. It introduces a water tariff for irrigation users in the Awash Basin. So we formed a consortium with Dutch water authorities as well, and the Ethiopian partners and a Dutch company. And we are working on bringing hardware, measurement equipment into the Awash Basin, and then together with our partners introduce a tariffing system. So we're taking a lead on that intervention, but for us not a project, but again the partnership remains key. So we try also to position as a strategic partner for even longer than the project may last.
A win-win situation by investing on the upper catchment can help the both to benefit from the rivers and on damage both in soil erosion as well as in flooding.
Well, we have to make them more aware of governance issues. They are mostly very technically oriented, but there are different levels above the technical level. And in most cases, these levels are unexplored. And if we can support them and coach them and ask the right questions, then they can grow in awareness about governance, about processes, about the people that are doing it, things like that.
And there are also here, we have seen problems here, but they manage it. So how they manage the problems and how the people and the government are working. So that will be also one of the experiences that we have learned from this visit.
The long-term approach is very important. It was our strategy. We want to be there for the long term, for the long-term partnerships. And for us, the Blue Deal is very helpful because the Blue Deal has a horizon of 12 years. So funding and the support from the Blue Deal is more or less guaranteed for 12 years. So within this long period, we can give our partnership shape.
Well, first of all, I think it's bringing the people physically together, a bit out of their work modus, a context that can be very hectic for them, receiving calls, being in urgent meetings. Now they're in the Netherlands, they're all together in one room for a couple of days. So we also try to create some rest, and then having the good discussions, asking the right questions, really listening to one another. And by being together for all of those hours and days, it also creates, we're building relationships, not only between North and South, but even between the Southern stakeholders. We see that happening. And then of course the discussion themselves, they will have hopefully good outputs. We're seeing some of it already.
If you want to cooperate and if you want to do it in a context with little means and maybe sometimes with big conflicting interests, it's really crucial that you know each other. So if you don't really know each other, if you haven't built a relationship together, how can you then solve conflicting interests? So it's really important.
And I really think in our current collaboration as Woord and Daad, as international NGO, we see that we are moving from maybe before just implementing projects, not just implementing, they can be hard, but a project approach to more working in strategic partnerships where you really aim for systemic change with public stakeholders in the South, where you really try to embed and to anchor changes in the local context.